Imagine a Chinese man who was born in Turin, drinks espresso in the morning, wears a good suit, and could put half of Milan to shame with his gestures. However, beneath that Italian flair beats the heart of a major Chinese corporation. That's exactly what this car is like. Its design was created in Turin, and you can see that, but we won't judge a book by its cover. Right, welcome to my review of the Changan Deepal S05, which is just debuting in Poland. And if you're new to my channel, my name is Zakharov. Let's get started. Music. Another Chinese car, right? Who can remember all of them? Indeed, there are so many Chinese brands on the market now that probably no one knows what they are, what they're called, or what their logos look like. But if only the four truly biggest Chinese automotive giants were to appear on the Polish market, Chang'an would be one of them. They have been producing cars since the 1980s. They have already sold over 30 million cars. They have R&D centers and factories all over the world. They design cars in Italy, tune the chassis in England, and sell these cars in over 100 countries worldwide. So the idea is simple. They sell Italian looks, European driving style, and offer it all at a price that's meant to hurt the competition. But in 2026, a Chinese car has to be not only cheaper, it has to offer more. But let's take it step by step. On the outside, Deepal S05. The S05 looks as if someone in China finally said, "Gentlemen, less fireworks, more proportions." You can see the dimensions on the screen. I'd like to point out the wheelbase. Formally, this is around the size of a compact SUV, but with the proportions of a car that visually stands a class above. The S05 doesn't try to look like a spaceship. It has an attractive but not flashy design with many details, like frameless door windows, for example. The wheels are 18s. In the higher-end versions, they're 20s. The grille has active aerodynamics, which, among other things, contributes to the super low drag coefficient, which is 0.25 for this car. Quick digression here. The new Volvo EX60, which looks like a drop of water, has 0.26. That's as a point of reference. At the back, we have the latest trendy edition, which is a full-width LED strip and an illuminated brand logo. While we're at the back, I'll also mention that you can buy a tow hitch with a towing capacity of 1,600 kg. And by the C-pillar, we have this gadget, an interactive indicator for the charging process and battery status. I'll also show you something interesting at the front. 1, 2, the hood is unlocked. And take a look at this. Frunk. And what a frunk it is. Over 150 liters. Why am I not giving the exact number? I will. Liters in the all-wheel drive version, where the engine is also in the front, and 159 liters in the version without front-wheel drive. The RWD version has 272 horsepower and a claimed WLTP range of 485 km. Did I mention that this is an electric car? I just said it. The AWD version, on the other hand, adds a second, roughly 160 horsepower motor at the front. So together we have a total of 435 horsepower, a 0 to 100 km/h sprint in 4.5 seconds, and a slightly smaller range of 445 kilometers. There's a heat pump, and you can power external devices up to 6 kW, so electrically this car is well thought out. Here's another fun fact about the safety systems in this car. I won't go into detail about what it has on board, because of course it has a lot, but I'll tell you about what it doesn't have. Of course, it received 5 stars in the Euronica AP test. Euronica AP gave positive ratings for adult protection and child protection, but it didn't give an award for the car monitoring system. I'm not sure why, since there's obviously a sensor here looking through the window. Maybe it's because this warning has a big turn me off button. And I really like that monitoring system. I like it a lot. I can live with this shortcoming. Let's move to the interior, and here, after looking around, we can see that there are no gauges in front of the driver. Recently, the automotive industry has seen gauges disappearing. Recently, I was at the presentation of the new 7 Series, and BMW also decided that such gauges are not necessary. In this car, these gauges are, of course, replaced by the readings from the head-up display. By the way, it's a massive head-up display, which is so big that it shows all kinds of additional information. It not only repeats speed limits, range, or current speed, but also, for example, has augmented reality, which means it overlays navigation directions onto the view naturally seen through the windshield. Without a head-up display, all this information would be here. The command center is a 15.4-inch screen, and its biggest gimmick, actually no, not a gimmick. A gimmick is something that's not really useful but looks impressive, but this is super useful. This is the ability to tilt the screen more towards the driver. I drove from Warsaw to Krakow with it set up like this. Then in Krakow I thought I'll set it to the right for the passenger. Just for fun, let's see how it looks. So I pressed this button and the screen turned. I thought, you really can't drive like this. You just can't, you can't see anything. Then I look. The screen is centered. Oh, that's how I drive in all cars anyway. It's just that my eye has gotten so used to the comfort of the screen turned toward me that I can't look at it any other way now. So let's click one more time. And now it turns toward the passenger. Okay, now you really can't see much. However, it makes you realize how easily a person adapts, even to a setting that now seems unreadable to me, and how quickly you get used to something good. Here we have a 360-degree surround view system, of course with a full set of cameras. But we also have a dash cam here that records videos in a loop and lets us play them back. It also records emergency video during hard braking so that various situations on the road are remembered. And you can also take photos on the spot on demand. And here button number 2 is assigned to this function, and we can press it at any moment. Oh, and now there's another photo. 3 became 4. We also have wireless Apple CarPlay and Android Auto. Everything we could expect from a car of this class is here. We have scenarios here. Rest mode, the seats recline differently. Car wash mode, all the windows close. Camping mode, the seats are unfolded for sleeping. Pet left inside, body, lights, energy. Here with the lights, to be honest, the only reasonable setting is high. I tested it at night, and even the medium setting points at the bumper. And with the low setting, you can barely see the edge because it points almost straight down. Energy. And this is really nice because finally there's a Chinese car that doesn't mess around with consumption or try to hide it somehow, but instead clearly shows this much for starting up, this much for charging, total mileage, long-term stats, everything can be reset, everything is clear, it works just like we're used to in Europe. Here we have voice control, meaning you can talk to the assistant, who importantly only speaks English, at least in my German test car. The current language is Polish, and it's worth noting that everything is really well translated. Only the messages are played in such broken Polish that it's barely understandable. That's probably the only comment I have regarding the localization of this system. Oh, this might be a good example. I'm starting phone charging now, by the way. Here it shows that the charging will be very fast. And then I press the parking button and open the door slightly. Take your phone. Importantly, after connecting Android Auto, this entire top bar and the entire bottom bar stay in place. Android Auto is basically a window here in the middle, which is extremely important because after turning on Android Auto, we still have access to all the most important functions. We have two 50-watt chargers. The one on the left has cooling. We have this kind of key. It's pretty big, I have to admit. 2 cup holders. The cup holders are excellent when it comes to storage. Look, here we have a big compartment, but we can cut it out. Here we have a really large compartment, cooled as well. And there's also a little shelf here in between. If there's space, you have to make use of it. Here someone took a very practical approach. Here we have a large compartment at the bottom, a USB port. Look, there was space here, so I'll bring the camera. Oh, there was space here, so they used it. There's another little compartment. There's one more detail you might have noticed. On the lower edge of the front windshield, there's a silhouette of several buildings from a certain city. Of course, it's Turin, because the car was designed in Turin. That tallest building is the Mall Antonelliana, which was the tallest brick building in Europe for a long time, because it's over 160 meters tall. And it's no coincidence that this Easter egg ended up here. There's another cool feature worth mentioning. Here we have what's called a Quincy, a concept I actually got to know thanks to Chinese cars. When it comes to build quality, this car aspires to be premium not through advertising slogans, ambitions or brochures, but through the actual quality of its finish. The entire cockpit here is made of soft material. This whole big ledge that runs from right to left with some Deepal logos and beautiful orange stitching is soft, and you can feel the foam here and underneath as well, just like here in front of the driver. The doors at the top have a soft finish. Lower down there's really only a gap for the LED, so it transitions into another soft finish, again with stitching. And then what does it lead to? Of course, another soft finish with foam. Next, we move on to the armrest, which is soft, but here I would actually use a double layer of foam. It would be more comfortable for longer trips, but still, we're dealing with a completely soft finish throughout. It's only at the level of the door pocket that we encounter hard plastics, so in my opinion, the quality is good. By the way, if the lower pockets had a bit of flocking inside in the middle, everything I touch here is soft. This is naturally soft too, and here on the right side they really didn't skimp on the double layer of foam, and it's comfortable. A bit of piano black trim, so let's check how everything fits together. I don't know if I'll break off this screen, since it already rotates, so it's not fixed in place, so I won't break it. It moves, it doesn't break off, it doesn't creak. Let's grab this piano black trim. Oh, it could have been really bad. Oh, I keep thinking about very expensive cars where the piano black trim was really noisy. And here, nothing. We pull here, nothing. Anything else? Somewhere here I can try to break something off? Nothing? This window ledge? Silence? Where else can I nitpick? Maybe here? Nothing, it's all molded around the footwell. I'm starting the 2-meter tall people test by getting in because I want you to see the screen that turns, the seat that moves forward. I'm in a very good position relative to the steering wheel. Above my head I have 2.5 fingers of free space. Sitting behind myself I fit perfectly in terms of legroom. But here I'm not even touching the driver's seat yet. However, if I wanted to touch it, the good news is that this seat is soft and you can press it in the middle part that's meant for your knees. Well, even with a good 5 centimeters, I'm still not able to touch any structural elements that could dig into me. There's also space under the seat, maybe not an excess of it, but enough to sit ergonomically, even with winter boots on. However, above my head, I'm missing, well, I'd say 2 or maybe 3 centimeters to be able to fully straighten up and officially say that it's suitable for someone 2 meters tall, also in terms of height. When it comes to space for the person sitting here in the middle, thanks to the flat floor and the way the center tunnel is shaped, it actually creates extra space for your feet as well. They can also travel medium distances, maybe not very long ones, because of the clearly contoured rear seats. In the middle, we also get a very wide, soft armrest, 2 cup holders, a storage compartment down here, 2 USB-C ports, 1 air vent, pockets behind the seats, very spacious pockets, which is important, in the doors, and lights above your head. So, what could I possibly complain about? I could say that the window doesn't go all the way down, that the range of headrest adjustment is relatively small. However, it's already almost touching the headliner, so it couldn't go any higher anyway. That the rear seat is fixed in place and can't be moved forward or backward, nor can you adjust the angle of the backrest. Now the trunk. The trunk has 492 liters of capacity. Here we have a classic retractable cover with the name Deepal on it. S05 a light on the right, a 12-volt outlet, a flat wide floor, a regular shape, additional recesses on both sides, and under the floor we'll find another pretty decent storage compartment. And that's basically it. Here we also have a repair kit. The tailgate, of course, is electrically operated. The appropriate button, and after folding down the backrests, I just need to push here, 1, 2, and we get 1,250 liters. The richly contoured seats, which I mentioned during the 2-meter guy test, don't fold completely flat. As a consolation, let me remind you about the frunk, which has a genuinely useful amount of space, because even in the all-wheel drive version, like my test car here, it has over 150 liters of capacity. The charging port is located by the rear wheel on the right side. Here we have these classic caps, and I have to say that in practice you need to make sure they don't get in the way when plugging in the connector. Of course, I want to emphasize that this is a classic solution, but the car aims higher, so it's worth thinking about such details. Now the key question, how does it drive? And I'll say this, If you like this car from the outside or even before you saw it, just looking at the price compared to the specs, then from the outside, and then it turned out that the inside is pretty good too, then get ready for things to escalate. Because at least the top version over 400 horsepower on the S05 takes expectations, feel, emotion, and the overall experience up another notch. And that's in every aspect, meaning both in terms of driving comfort, what it can get out of those motors, and how the rest of the chassis keeps up with those parameters. The very first meters I drove in this car, wait, I've already driven this car. Of course I haven't, but I have already driven a car that drove exactly the same. And that was the Mercedes EQE. I was surprised at how you can create a car that drives so brilliantly without air suspension. And this car drives exactly the same. Very smoothly, very softly, and not just on good roads. It's the smoothness and quietness of the ride, but also the ability to absorb small bumps. Look, we have a manhole cover here. Here we have a manhole cover. Here we have a manhole cover. Of course, the car hits them, but it's not a big deal. I used to think only Mercedes drove like this. Things like this only happened in a Mercedes. No, it can be tuned like that, and that's on 20-inch wheels. And now, okay, we have 435 horsepower. How does it handle that? So let me tell you this. The drive, I'm in eco mode. And I'm in this eco mode. I press the gas. I'm driving at about 30. I press the gas, and it starts to accelerate nicely, now in comfort mode. That's important with powerful electric cars. In this mode, I press the gas. Definitely much faster, but still smooth. And now the most important thing, sport mode. In sport mode, it can either shoot out even more decisively or just smack me in the back of the head with the headrest and launch like a slingshot, which I can't stand. I've tested a few cars that did that. Yeah, that already required tensing the neck muscles. But it didn't shoot out like a slingshot. It just accelerated smoothly and gracefully. I'm on a straight road. 50 km, I'll do the moose test for you right away. 50, 1, 2. The way it dives to the left and right. How willingly it does that. How little resistance the steering wheel offers. All of this just makes you want to keep taking corners in this car. But when I do the moose test, coming out of that maneuver doesn't happen at 50 km/h, but rather at a speed of around 40 km/h maybe. Why? Because it totally preemptively, for no reason at all, since the car barely even leaned, for some reason decided that just in case, it would slow down. And look, I'll repeat it once more. 50. Let's assume it's happening here. 1, 2. Here you go. Now I did it a bit more gently, and that slowdown was barely noticeable. But when I make a really decisive move, that's 49 km/h. Oh, look, 35 km/h at the end of the maneuver. It depends on how quickly I turn the wheel. And depending on that, it chooses a scenario and either slows us down a bit or lets us go through. We can hear the tires squealing. It's doing its job. It's coming back. Just so it doesn't seem like I'm only saying positive things. There are two things, but I'll turn it off with 2 clicks. The first one, both of them are in the smart driving tab. There's cruise control here, adaptive cruise control, or even something like autopilot. When we're in smart assistant mode, let's drive a bit faster and...
Intelligently temperament activar.
Yeah, I'm speaking with my accent, okay. And now in a turn, this car actually handles even better than on a straight, because in a turn it carefully chooses its driving line. I have to touch the steering wheel every now and then here so it doesn't start beeping. But on a straight there's nothing to do and it relaxes a bit. And then it doesn't drive exactly in the middle of the lane. Sometimes it goes a bit to the left, closer to the left or closer to the right. So what do? I gently correct it, right? And it gets upset. Basically it's like, hey, what are you doing? Hands off, I'm driving. That's what it says to me. So after a few messages like that, I decided that I'm done, that I'm not interested. All right, let's go. We've just activated intelligent cruise control. And now we're driving I'll add a bit more speed on the cruise control here because otherwise the guy behind me is going to be right on my bumper. And now here's the thing, he's just driving along and I'm thinking, no, I don't want to go too much to the right, I want a bit to the left. Oh, okay, there's a turn now. It handles well in the turn, but now there's a bit of a straight. I say, no, please a little more to the left.
Yes, relax. Some intelligent ego temperaments.
I've heard the message many times. Tenso so. I don't know what tenso so means, but for me it's like, you'll get slapped, stop trying to rip the steering wheel out of my hands. You understand? He says that to me. So the only solution is this, removing the steering wheel from the equation. And now the steering wheel is mine. The adaptive cruise control works as it should. I'm driving and I'm responsible for everything. And the second thing is, and this is actually a problem with a lot of cars, that they just read the signs by the side of the road. And when you're driving 120 km/h on a highway, it reads a random sign like 70 km/h from a side road and suddenly starts slowing down automatically if the intelligent speed assistance is on. So you just need to turn it off and then you'll drive that expressway at 120 km/h instead of being slowed down to 70 km/h every now and then, or whatever it reads from the side road. Because it obviously has good cameras, but probably too wide angle. And I would say that's it as far as comments go. So these are the kind of issues that can be fixed with a wireless update, and maybe some of these problems will be solved, unless new ones appear. It depends on what the European Union proposes for us. So I think this is a good example for other Chinese companies as well, to bring cars to market, not with the mindset, because we drive like this, but rather we know how you want to drive, and here you have a car that drives the way you want. And it looks the way you like. Of course, I did all the tests for you, acceleration, energy consumption, and now I'm at the charger. And a quick summary. Acceleration to 100, I didn't get 5 point something, I got something below 6, let's say 5.9 and a bit. I tested both ways, twice averaged it, and I still didn't get 5 point something, that's one thing. As for energy consumption, it's about 16-17 kWh per 100 kilometers at 90 km/h. It depends on whether you're driving in eco mode or, for example, in sport mode, because then it's either rear-wheel drive or all-wheel drive. At 120 km/h, it's already 22 kWh, but in the city, it consumes about the same as at 90 km/h, and that translates into range. So on the highway, we'll probably get closer to 300 km on a full charge. But if we drive slower, or in the city, I think we'll get close to 400 km, which is also in line with expectations, because that's usually how it compares to the WLTP figures. Now with a 140 kilowatt charger, it will gain 140 km per hour. When I charged it at a 150 kilowatt station, but at night at 1 degree it reached 120 km per hour, I didn't preheat it beforehand. I couldn't find that option. And in Warsaw, at a very fast charger, it went up to 160, but not 200 either. We're checking out this car at night. It will react to me approaching with the key, so wake up. Thank you. Good morning. There it is. Let's see what happened here. That's how the lights light up. It lights up here too. And now we're getting inside. And inside you'll find illuminated buttons on the steering wheel. There's no illumination on the stalks under the steering wheel. All the buttons on the doors are illuminated. We have ambient light strips on the left, on the right, and in front. And here we have a strip like this on the mobile phone charger. And that's basically the end of the story when it comes to illuminated things, because everything else isn't illuminated, like the footwell, some compartments. Here in the armrest, the compartment isn't illuminated. In the back, there aren't even those strips, so the light show back here is pretty limited. When it comes to the LEDs at night, it's not very advanced, but we can, for example, change the brightness or the color here. And that's basically it. Of course, we can also turn on the light here with a single touch. Of course, we also have lights in the sun visors. There would probably be an illuminated glove compartment, because that's a must-have, but the problem is that in this car there is no glove compartment. So yes, we're almost done, because I'm still going to the trunk. Unfortunately, the front trunk is not illuminated. I was expecting some kind of light inside, or maybe even here on the hood, but no. And in the back, let's take another look here, nice logo. And that's what the trunk lighting looks like, meaning there's only a light on the right side, but let's say it's strong enough. The button for closing the trunk is illuminated. Who will Deepal S05 be competing against? Well, most obviously with the Tesla Model Y, but also with the whole army of other electric SUVs that have recently appeared in Europe. This segment of urban electric SUVs is already brutally crowded. Today, it's not enough to just be a good Chinese car. You have to be a better offer than Tesla, Skoda, Volkswagen, Kia, BYD, or other Chinese brands. The prices of the S05 in Poland start at 169,900 PLN for the RWD Pro version. The Max version costs 10,000 PLN more, while buying the more powerful all-wheel drive variant costs just an extra 7,000 PLN, which makes choosing the version exceptionally simple. To be fair, the biggest rival of Deepal S05 is not Tesla. The biggest rival is the lack of trust in a completely new brand in Europe. Of course, the manufacturer makes it easier to overcome this barrier with a long warranty of 7 years or 160,000 km, an 8-year or 200,000 km battery warranty. The Chinese have to prove their reliability this way in order to stand out even among their own, which is a large group, because objectively there are already a lot of Chinese brands. Even we journalists are starting to get lost among these brands, models and logos, but this car will stick in your memory. It has premium level fit and finish. It has style, good proportions, a long warranty, and it really drives great. Yes, I did find some flaws in it. Yes, the brand still has to build trust, service, and recognition, but for now the balance is very clear. This is not just another Chinese SUV that will compete for the lowest price. This well-equipped Chinese car from Turin has a lot going for it and could become a frequent sight on our roads. But will that happen? Time will tell, but considering the company behind it, I'm optimistic. Thank you very much for watching this episode. Remember to subscribe and see you in future videos. Bye.